to the Flicks Forum podcast with Jesse, Heater, and MJ. In this week's episode, we'll be discussing Netflix's 17th film, the 2016 action comedy True Memoirs of an International Assassin. Directed by Jeff Wadlow, starring Kevin James, Zulay Henao, Andy Garcia, Maurice Compte, Kelen Coleman, Andrew Howard, and Rob Riggle. Good afternoon, my fellow friends.
Afternoon, Jesse.
G'day, boys.
Petey.
I'm kind of excited today because I was on Facebook earlier today and I came up with one of my memories, as you do. And today, my memory was I'm excited. There's a countdown till Netflix arrives in Australia. So as our recording day, Netflix has been in Australia for 4 years.
Come on, Netflix.
Wow.
So how short time? That's a
There
lot of
you
money
go.
that I've pumped into.
Is that right?
Yeah. So 4 years tomorrow, as of our day of recording, Netflix has been.
So you made that post a day before Netflix.
I did. I was like
available.
3 hours countdown till Netflix is available. So I obviously stayed up to.
Did you get it as soon as it came out?
In
Netflix?
Australia, I did. Yeah, of course. I was all over it.
I reckon it took me 6 months, and I think it was Making a Murderer. All the hype around that.
That was the exact same for me. I reckon, a good 6 months, and then, all right, I have to watch this show, Making a Murder. We'll get Netflix.
When you get like the one free month, I'm like, we can smash out a show in a month, and then you get it, and you're like,
And you're hooked.
Nah, I'm in.
You're hooked on it.
I vaguely remember. I'm pretty sure it launched when House of Cards launched. Just off the top of my memory, and I'm pretty sure I was pumped up about that, and that was why I jumped on.
House of Cards is older than 4 years though. It would have been like House of Cards season 3 or something.
Yeah, and maybe that was why they were releasing it in Australia. So, so that's a happy day for us.
Did you work out how much money you pumped into Netflix over the last 4 years?
$10 a month for 4 years. It's quite a bit of cash, but I think it's well worth it.
And at what point did you realise you were going to make a podcast about it? Like an hour into your first...
I was like, I need to do something. All right, so as we said, today we're here to talk about this Kevin James film, True Memoirs of an International Assassin. So as usual, we go around the table and we give a quick summary in our fast flicks of what the film's about. I reckon MJ's going to kick us off today. Let us know what's going on.
Happy to. Funny man Kevin James in a real Kevin James kind of role, playing a budding author who gets mistaken for being a world-class assassin. He is, of course, kidnapped and forced to kill the president of Venezuela, or he will be killed himself. A power struggle sees him in this weird murder triangle, and his next move will be a matter of life and death.
Okay. Sure. Head up.
All right, so a writer's debut novel about an assassin called The Ghost is mistaken for a true story. This leads to him being kidnapped by those that think he's the ghost and thrown into the dangerous world of the character he created.
Good. All right.
Did
he create the ghost, though?
We wrote the story.
It's fiction, Jesse.
It's fiction. It's all fiction. All right, so I've gone with a down-and-out guy becomes an overnight sensation when he publishes a story about an international assassin. The release leads to a case of mistaken identity and an adventure that is too hard to believe. I didn't end with the question. I was like, how do I get a question?
Surprised.
Yeah, you didn't actually.
No, I didn't.
Are we going to talk about the fact that this is a really long title again? I know we spoke about that for I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. For some reason, I reckon this feels more normal for like True Memoirs of an International Assassin. It's probably more characters than.
I don't think it feels that long.
It felt long for me because every time I was typing notes about this, I was like, how do I spell assassin? I was spell check every time.
I just feel like I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House is like a sentence, whereas this feels like a title.
Yeah, it feels like a title. But I also still love
I don't know.
I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. I thought that was a great title. Great film title.
All right, so let's go around, have a chat about anything that we've learned about this film as we've been, I don't know, most people that understand, we probably put a bit of time and effort into looking at these films. So, Heater, what did you learn about this film?
All right, well, it's a remake of a 1973 French film. I didn't write down the title because I knew I wasn't going to pronounce it.
Le Magnifique.
There we go.
I'm not good at French.
It's a lot shorter.
I'll leave you to do that, yeah. It was, released on Netflix 11th November, had a budget of $40 million.
Ooh, $40 million is pretty decent.
That seems like a lot compared to what other movies, I reckon.
Other $40 million films, and this is just for good context, The Sixth Sense was $40 million.
Wow.
8 Mile was $40 million. Lucy, which I thought would have been a bit more expensive just with all the special
Scarlett
effects.
Johansson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Conjuring 2, which is one of my favourite horror films. Sin City was $40 million.
Wow.
And a couple
Sin City.
Yeah. A couple
What
that
a
come
movie!
under.
What a movie!
Twilight, Creed, and Where the Millers are all less than $40 million. So it shows that you got enough money to do something pretty good. With
Creed was less than 40 million.
Creed was less than 40 million.
Wow.
I feel like
a lot of money.
the look of this film definitely gave it it looked like it was a movie. It wasn't just like a made-for-TV Netflix film, so it definitely had that look and feel.
Ridiculous 6 was $60 million, by the way.
Well, they had the cast.
Probably all the cast, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of fees from
Well,
the
this movie had a decent cast.
Yeah.
Not as big as Ridiculous 6, but probably not as big, but I actually liked a lot of the actors in
definitely.
this movie. I mean, is the budget have got a lot to do, I guess, was where it was filmed as well? They've got to transport and send it all overseas and...
Well, so they filmed a bit of it in Atlanta, where a lot of... they've got a huge setup for film and TV in Atlanta. And then the other half...
Filmed in Atlanta and New York City.
Yep.
And then filmed in the Dominican Republic. Yeah.
I can't imagine it would have been that expensive to film.
No,
they would have got some good cuts from that, I reckon. Some other things I was looking at. So the CIA obviously plays a bit of a role in this film, and the depiction of the CIA logo wasn't real. It was fake. Yeah. So to me, that just means they didn't get the approval of the CIA to be involved. And most films,
I wonder why.
Yeah. Well, most films do try hard to get NASA or CIA or the FBI to get involved. But yeah, obviously we'll probably talk about that a bit later. So this appeared on the 2009 Blacklist. You guys know what the Blacklist is?
Yeah, I know. That was probably the most interesting thing I read about this.
So the Blacklist is like this list of films that goes around to studios, and it's a list of the ones that keep getting knocked back.
But like the most popular ones.
Yeah,
they get back.
There's a lot of them. It's like they think they're going to be made and they're going to be good, but just haven't been yet.
The best unproduced ones.
Yeah. So that original script was written by Jeff Morris when it was on the Blacklist, and then it got rewritten by the director Jeff Wadlow.
But 2009, it was on the Blacklist, so it was sitting in movie purgatory for a long time.
Yeah, there was a bit of controversy in Venezuela about the way that the country was depicted in this film, and there were some politicians that said that
the president was just an absolute moron.
And they said that the representation of the country promoting a coup against the actual president, so he sort of related it to real life and what was happening in Venezuela at the time, which I thought was quite funny. I did read this really good interview with the screenwriter and the director, and one of the questions that they asked the screenwriter was how much research did you put into this film? And he goes, none. I pulled it out of my imagination.
I love that honesty.
That's awesome.
So are you trying to tell me that the president of Venezuela is not American?
Not American. He's not from San Diego, and he doesn't like hot dogs and blankets. And then the interview kept going, and pretty much he said, once they got Kevin James on board, they took the package to the Cannes Film Festival, and then Netflix, as they do, they said, yep, bang. A couple months later, call them back and said, we're supportive. Let's get this movie going. It's been sitting there for so long. And then the director goes, they were so supportive. A couple of times where he stood back and said, hey, I'll take a step back. And Netflix said, no way, you're our guy. What does that remind us of? Every other film.
Oh, yeah.
Every other film that we've looked at so far. So, they said, we want your vision. The film's what we want. And
it's interesting how important it is this movie's sitting there doing nothing, and you sign someone like Kevin James, who is by no means an A-lister. You'd probably put him under the B-lister category, but as soon as Kevin James gets on board, the wheels start turning and things actually happen from it. So it's interesting how it actually works in the business. If you get a big-name actor, then you've got a movie. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, what the director of The Fundamentals of Caring said. He's like, we got Paul Rudd on. As soon as you get Paul Rudd, you've got a movie to go on.
Shout out to Rob Burnett, great director.
Rob Burnett, our boy.
Rob Burnett, I hope Heath's gone back and watched the first 10 minutes of that film.
Exactly.
Yeah, I put it on when I'm a bit tired and just, need to sleep.
Rob is a big fan of the podcast, by the way. He has reached out to us.
Had you seen much of this director's work for this movie?
Well, but looking at it, he'd done a lot of TV. A lot of short films.
I'd seen one movie that he's done. That was weird. No, it was Never Back Down. Which
is he a director? Or I think he may have been a writer.
I thought he directed that.
What I looked at, the only thing I could see was that he'd this was his first feature, and he went on and did that Truth or Dare movie.
Yeah, Truth or Dare was the other one. He directed Kick-Ass.
The other thing that I thought was interesting was we've spoken about Rotten Tomatoes.
Directed it.
Rotten Tomatoes and the perception. So this is one of those films. So there's this list of Rotten Tomatoes films that sit on 0%.
Is it?
And this is one of those Rotten Tomatoes films that sits on 0%, but it's only off 8 reviews. So there's a lot of other films that where Rotten Tomatoes won't give an overall consensus until they have a certain amount of reviews, but this one's got 0% on 8 reviews.
I'm surprised by that. I remember when this one came out, there was a lot more fanfare around it, and Netflix pushed it a lot more than their other films. There's one of they probably had those Adam Sandler films and this film as like their main stable at the start that they really pushed out. So I'm surprised that not enough people have reviewed that on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, they had an audience score of 43%. So that it's still pretty low, I guess. But yeah, 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's any other things that we've read about?
Oh, there was a casting change late. So
Because of an injury?
Yeah, so the role of the DA agent Rosa was meant to be played by Genesis Rodriguez, but she injured herself during the rehearsals for the movies, had to pull out.
They did say there was some intense training prior to this.
I would have thought so, yeah.
How much work did Kevin James do?
Well, that's what he said. He sort of said that once they got on Zulay Henao to play Rosa, which by the way, Kevin James' wife actually got her on board. So I think she read an article that Zulay was in and got the director and Kevin to interview her or give her a screen test, which was via FaceTime, and that was enough for them. She got the role off the back of that, and then they were straight into training. And Kevin James made a point of being like, it's obviously not how I normally do my films. It's not like straight into rehearsal to train to get into shape or do action stuff. So there was obviously quite a bit. I think they obviously had stuntmen and whatnot. But, there was a bit of work there.
When I was watching this, one of the cameos that really got me was that Katie Couric. When Kevin James his character sits down and has that interview.
Yep.
Has anyone else seen Katie or know of Katie Couric? Because the only thing that comes to my head is there's a Family Guy little sketch where Peter Griffin is so she's sitting at the desk doing a thing, and Peter Griffin's on that glass window in the back going, Katie, and then bangs the window so hard and breaks through. And I was like, oh my god.
I was trying to wonder why I know that name, and I reckon that's the reason.
It just came to my head. I'm like, oh my god, this is all I can think of is Family Guy. So I thought that was quite funny. All right, so is there anything else we want to talk about before we talk about some characters? Now let's get into the characters. Peter, what do we think?
I like quite a few characters in this actually. I'm really in general not a big fan of Andy Garcia, but I did like him in this movie. I'm not sure if it's because I loved his beard. It was great, but I liked Andy Garcia's role, and I don't really like him.
I wasn't sure if we were supposed to like him initially. I'm like, nah, this guy's the main bad guy, right? And then you're like, oh nah, he's the good guy, because the other guys
were better.
They were worse than him, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh no, like he's still bad, but he's good. And I'm like at the end, I'm like, no, he's bad again.
Yeah. I just liked him though, and I mean, I'm sure.
I thought he was good.
Yeah, I'm sure, Jesse, that you would know this, but I loved Juan, who was Andy Garcia's right-hand man.
Yep.
Loved him because he's obviously in Narcos, and I loved him in Narcos, and I see him in this, I'm like, he's just,
do you just
great
like
again.
people because you like them? Because every time you talk about characters, you're like, you either say, I really liked him in this, so I liked him in this, or you're like, I saw him in this, and I just couldn't see him in any other role than this.
I feel like for this guy, I love him in Narcos. When I see him in this, I've already got kind of like a positive thought in my mind about him, and so obviously if he's not good, and I'm not going to like him, but I'm already going in with a positive mind. I like this actor.
Yeah.
So did anyone go in with a positive mind of Kevin James then? Because
I love Kevin James.
What were we saying of Kevin James that we like?
I should have prefaced this at the start. There is something about that man that I just can't get enough of. And I don't know if it's some sort of relatability that I have with him, but I find him so funny, and I find him... I love the fact that he's just this massive dag, and he knows he's a dag, and he plays the dag so well. So I'm a fan of King of Queens. I thought Doug Heffernan's a great character. In fact, I think every character Kevin James plays is basically a little bit of Doug Heffernan. I can't...
Paul Blart, Mall Cop.
I can't not watch him and laugh. Like, even in this, every time he sprints, I'm gone. Like, he just pumps those arms really hard, and his little legs go really quickly. He's actually got good physical comedy to him, so...
The opening, I feel like everyone was cast pretty well in this, and there were no characters that I was like, oh, don't really like you.
Yeah.
But like the start, I was like, oh, it's just like a fat James Bond.
When the film started, the first thing I thought of, I'm like, I love seeing Kevin James kicking ass.
It was such a cool scene.
But then I was also
loved it.
like, how is this happening? Like, how is this a thing? And then obviously when I realised what the premise of the film was, that he's a writer and it's not really him, it kind of made sense. But initially I was like, this is awesome, but this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's how it works.
What is going on?
Yeah, I like the setup. Like they set it up really well to make it out like you said, he was such a loser. Like he's in the apartment block and the girl's like giving him absolute donuts, and he's just got complete and utter horrible lines to her. And he's in his office, and the co-worker was complete like twat towards him, and you get that shot of him getting his manuscript back, and it's got rejected in these big letters like, yeah, you are a reject. Like, and I thought that was a good setup to
I really like the scenes where he had writer's block and they go to the actual scene of the film. And
they were good.
He's got
and they were just hanging around.
Sitting there like, come on, man, you got to do something.
Yeah. Like, at the start, the bad guy just kind of walks past and he's like, all right, we'll see you, man. And he keeps walking. And
that was a clever. I've never seen something like that in a film.
It was clever, yeah. I liked it.
That thing about him at his office, though, with his boss, how often do you see that in films? Just like this little tidbit scene about a boss who's a jerk, who's making this person work too hard. And you're just like, okay, this guy's got a bad life.
Go back and listen to Rebirth.
Yeah, exactly right. Boss wouldn't even talk to him.
No. I could have seen Adam Sandler in this film playing that role almost.
Yeah, you could. I think.
But the do-over, I feel like, is like a very similar...
similar character.
Yeah, very similar.
I think the fact that Kevin James is a bit fat made it better as well. Like, they're kidnapping this guy. Like, this guy is the ghost. This guy's this amazing assassin. You're like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's sitting there
you could put John Goodman in the role or something. He could have played like the character as just as well, I reckon, too.
So one thing I liked about the character, though, is that they set up well that he was incredibly thorough. So he knew what he was talking about with this kind of stuff. And even that scene where he was working out in his apartment and he was fighting that mannequin, I was watching that thinking, is this supposed to be how bad he is, or is he actually not a bad fighter?
Really
like, he was
committed.
good. Like he knew what he was doing. So later on when he was doing stuff, you were like, well, it's not too far-fetched to think that he just all of a sudden picked up how to do these things.
See, I even love before that I think at the very start where you see him writing his book and you see his wall, and it's like, one of like the FBI walls with all the things everywhere, got the arrows, and so he's so thorough. He's done all this research into making this book. I really like that, seeing all that stuff on the wall.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree.
Even though his signature gun move was so daggy, everyone to spin the gun, catch it, and shoot.
But you always knew it was going to come back in the end.
Especially when she said, when are you ever going to use that?
Oh, I bet you he uses it.
I liked, like we were talking about, I liked those scenes where it was like his imagination and then it sort of cuts back to reality. And I felt like that was done really well at the start, and then it sort of just disappeared throughout the film. It didn't really play a big part towards the end.
I guess he wasn't writing as much at the end, so it was
he was more involved in it, like if he was doing it,
Yeah, but obviously, like at the end, he has that interview with Katie, and it's about his new book about these adventures. So, sure, like you could have had it that these are ideas that he's putting towards his sequel, because we had that phone call that he had with his publicist, who was like, "How are you going with the follow-up novel?" And he's like, "Oh, I've been kidnapped," and she's like, good research work. So they could have kept following it through.
Yeah, true.
What we're talking, I guess, about what we liked.
We like Kevin James' one-liners, yeah? We like his one-liners?
No.
Let's light this candle.
No. I mean, that they were corny and they fitted in with what the movie was.
He does corny so well. When he said, let's light this candle, I always had to pause it because I was laughing too much.
Yeah. I loved any scene with the CIA guys.
Yeah,
they were hilarious. When they're betting about if he's going to live and die and stuff. And
I've got that in my worst scenes.
Oh, I love them. They were hilarious.
Because I feel like it just totally changed. Like it was just this stark contrast to everything else you're looking at. Because the soundtrack just went to like this comedic sort of like ha 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 laugh.
It's very true.
Trying to make you laugh.
It got quite serious at that point when it's similar to Special Correspondence. How they lie about this thing and then all of a sudden they find themselves in the midst of it. It's exactly the same sort of setup. But when he's in Venezuela, it's like, it is, he's not going to die or anything because you're watching a comedy film.
Yeah.
But the stakes are really high.
The stakes are,
and then there's the CIA guys, who I thought were funny, but I also thought were jarring as well.
I really liked a lot of the transitions with the typewriter. I thought that was really clever. Like the typewriter, the text going over the screen, and it was like, a good way of moving from scene to scene. I thought that was done really well.
And when they spelled inauguration wrong and like backspace,
Yeah.
spelled it right, that was really nice.
I thought that was really clever.
I like that in the opening scene where he gets blasted with like the rocket and he's like, hang on, no, and he backspaces it. It's too extreme. What am I thinking?
I thought those scenes were really well done.
Yeah.
And in line with that, there was that scene where they had this big shot of New York City, and then like the download bar was going across the screen and it was pumping went up to like 56,000 and counting, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
as
it
well.
was
Like,
good, yeah.
some good use of like graphics. Which was cool. What else?
I like the scene when Juan is walking Sam up the street. Like after he's taken him from Rosa, and it's a bit of comedy in there. I think Sam asked him, "Oh, you didn't kill her," and he's like, "I'm a freedom fighter. I'm not a killer. But you threatened to kill me. I'll make an exception." and just a bit of that back and forth. He's calling him a baby and things like that. I enjoyed that scene of them walking up there.
That was when I think you start to like Juan.
Yeah,
because they had to set up. Once you realised that all the bad guys were going to die, you were like, yeah, but what happens to the country?
Yeah.
And when he was the president at the end, you were like, okay, like he kind of had the right morals and the right idea. And but they set him up nice and slowly, which was good.
Yeah, there was like a scene where they were driving through Caracas in Venezuela, and then they had a lot of like the pace of the shots went up, and you could see like kids in the streets and the shanties and the houses, and I thought that was like a really nice establishing shot of the city, sort of giving you an idea about where they were going, even though they didn't really portray this place as a really... Well, I think it's like the world's most dangerous city at some stage as well, didn't it? Yeah.
Really looked like the slums for a fair bit of it.
Yeah.
Until you get to Mastervich's house.
Yeah. I really liked the fight with Rosa and Masevich in the hotel.
Yeah, I thought that was a highlight.
Which ends with her spear tackling him out the window. I mean, anytime someone gets spear tackled out a window, it's pretty cool. But I like that fight scene.
I really like the fight scene. I thought the fight was really good. But then that really annoyed me. The spear tackle through the window was good. But then they spear tackled back through the window when they came back in. It was like they've gone out a window, down about 5 stories, and then all of a sudden they're spear tackling back into the window.
Spear tackling through a window is just awesome.
Even coming back in when they were on the ground, it's like they're up here and it's like...
Stop thinking too much into it, man.
I really like the Spanish songs, like the Spanish.
Oh my god, they were great!
They were good.
So what did we pick up on? Like what songs? Because there's a few there.
Hungry Like the Wolf, In the Air Tonight, and Should I Stay or Should I Go? I love them.
Yeah, and the one that got me.
There's also one that I know that you'll like.
Tay-Tay?
Yeah, Taylor Swift.
Take it off as they walk in the house.
I didn't write that one on.
You got what's his name, Masevich.
Masevich,
like standing at the top of the staircase.
Yeah.
It's like this Taylor Swift playing in the background.
I loved them. I thought they were great. I thought they were really well done.
I also love it when you walk into that house and those girls are there in the water, and he goes, "They're fun girls, yeah?" And Kevin Chase goes, "I could tell by all the splashing." There's another one where he just lost me.
All right. Anything else that stood out? Or are we ready to move on?
There was a scene, and honestly, I can't remember who it was, but someone got thrown through a table, and I like seeing that. So I'm always up for someone getting thrown through a table. Might go back to my wrestling love of watching WWE, but I love when someone gets thrown through a table.
There were some good fighting scenes.
Yeah, the action was pretty good. All right, I'm going to talk about some things that annoyed me.
Please go.
Here we go.
My product placement update.
Oh, good. Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Starbucks at the start just did my head in. They continually went to Starbucks, and I was like...
In my head, I'm like, this is totally the kind of place that an internet author would meet up with his internet producer.
Correct, and that was good, but like, do it in a cafe. You don't have to show that it's Starbucks.
Starbucks makes it more cringier. Like when she's... Can you imagine the conversations like, hey, I'm going to get your book published. She's like, yeah, where do you want to meet?
Coffee shop.
Yeah, because she doesn't have an office.
Yeah.
No, come to Starbucks. It's even worse. Like...
Well, it's talking about like cringeworthy, like when they're at that house and then the guy gets shot for not getting the right alcohol and he's like, "Oh, I've got some Smirnoff for you." Okay, thanks. Thanks. And then the Katie Couric scenes, the Yahoo logo was just over the screen multiple times. That's did my head.
I'm gonna.
I don't like a little bit of like subtle.
You hate it, don't you? You hate it.
I know that helps get the movies paid for.
I'm going to start looking for product placement, and I'm going to try and pick up something that you don't pick up on.
All right, good. Let's do it.
My new goal.
Challenge for next movie. Next film we do next week. Pick up the product placements I don't.
I will. They're going to be so obscure. I'll be like, did you see the guy was wearing a Jag t-shirt?
Jag. All right.
Is Jag still a brand? Yeah, they're still a brand, yeah.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Mr. Fashion.
Maybe.
I've got a couple others. So the helicopter scene at the start, they overdid it, so you knew that something was going to come back, and that was so obvious at the end that it was going to happen again, and it looked really fake. Like
It did
so fake.
It did look very
Looked
fake.
very
So
fake.
and then I was like,
I-
if you got $40 million, make it look real.
I like though when at the end when he's hanging off it and Andy Garcia keeps flying into the trees again. That's good.
But I think something like that in a movie like this, where your audience is not expected to be thinking too much whilst watching it.
Yeah.
Easy setups like that
Yeah.
are always going to happen. Like,
Yeah. The other easy setup was obviously it was all coming down to this point at the end where they're all going to go to this ball, and they just continually talked about it. And that's one of those tropes that you see in
not
James
really
Bond
easy to
films.
get into that ball as well.
Real easy.
It's like all of a sudden this guy's just there, and Rosa is just able to go with him, and like, okay.
What did you think about the food nicknames that Rosa kept saying? Did they make you laugh? Because to me they didn't. Like she called him honey baked.
Oh yeah.
Sam cheese, bacon bits, McRib.
Nah, it was a bit much. Bit much.
MJ obviously had a giggle.
MJ loved it.
Again, that's why it wouldn't work if he wasn't fat.
True.
Didn't he call her one at one stage at the end as well? I'm sure he called her like one of the ones that she called him, and she was just like, "Don't call me that."
Yeah, I recall
Put it back
that.
on
I
it.
recall that.
Like they continually like called Venezuela. Like they didn't portray it in a very good light. And I thought that was a bit rough. Like there was actual dialogue was like, this place is a dump.
They could have easily just made it like a no-name country. It wasn't important.
Yeah,
it
just
wasn't
a South
important where it
American
was.
country. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a scene towards the end where Rosa and Sam are having this little deep and meaningful, and he works out, oh, you're actually worried about me, and she's like, how did you know? And he's like, I'm a writer. I noticed the details.
That was pretty bad.
That was so bad.
Is it when she goes in telling me about she's had like 5 partners die and
So I
she's messing with
I was
him?
initially hating that scene when
Yeah.
she's
Oh,
like,
me too. Me
I'm
too.
like, oh, we don't need this sob story. Like,
And then it
you're
turned
talking about why she works alone.
Yeah.
Everyone dies that she works with, and you're getting worried for Sam. And then when she was pulling his leg, I was like, oh, you got me as well.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were lying about
Well,
that.
she had lots of tears running down her face.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was good. She was
good.
good.
Last thing, update on Netflix original songs. Did either of you watch the credits?
Yeah, I always leave it on.
Yeah, did you?
No.
No. So there was a mention at some stage where someone made a comment about, I saw your YouTube video with you and Katie, and they did like a mashup.
Mashup. Yeah.
So over
Yeah,
the credits,
yeah,
they had that
over the
mashup
credits.
of the interview
Yeah.
with like a.
Are we calling this a Netflix
I'm calling that a
original
Netflix
song?
original songs.
I think that is just part of the film.
It was bad.
It's a song. You play it over credits as a song.
I get it. I don't think they're going to be
Wasn't
releasing it
good.
on iTunes for
It could be a challenge. See if you can find a download
get
of
into the
it.
charts.
All right, I'm done with the things that annoyed me.
I didn't like him making the deal with the publisher. Like, it just didn't seem real where she was just like, they didn't talk about money or anything. They didn't talk about what was going to happen. He was just kind of like, all right, yep, agreed. It was just real. I mean, for someone who's put that much effort into a book, it seemed really irresponsible of him to,
He was
I guess,
desperate, though.
not talking about details and stuff though. Like,
I agree.
But they sort of showed that because like he was like, oh no, I'm not going to sign it. And then she's like, oh, here's $5,000. He's like, yeah, okay.
But you saw when he got rejected that he'd obviously been rejected time and
quite
time
a few
again.
times, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got another one if you
I know
don't.
you go.
When Rosa rescues Sam from the corrupt police chief, she starts shooting at the police chief.
Yep.
And he's not far away, and she misses him about 5 times. Didn't feel that realistic to me. I'm like, this dear,
Hang on, you like action movies though. This happens in every action
yeah,
movie.
but I do. But it just felt a bit weird because she was just very close to him, and she missed him a lot.
That scene annoyed me a little bit as well because like they kept going to that shot where you could see through the sniper lens. So it's like, oh, obviously someone's watching, something's going to happen. Like it wasn't like, you didn't feel worried about him at any stage being in that room because you knew someone was going to come.
It would have been nice. Or it would have been nice if it was a surprise, but it also would have felt like a cop-out if it was just like, oh, someone just came out of nowhere in a car and saved you.
True.
But I was initially annoyed where she kept saying like, oh, you said this to him, you said this to him. And I'm like, how do you know all that? But I don't realize she obviously had it bugged so she could hear everything anyway. So
There was a lot of like, there was so much like crossing and going backwards and forwards between who's going for who and who's.
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like,
All over the shop.
as I think I called it in my Fast Flicks a murder triangle as opposed to a love triangle. Like, he just
Triangle's being generous. I'd be like a pentagon or
He
something.
just kept going to everyone else.
Yeah.
All right, I'll kill him for this reason. All right, I'll kill this. All right, I'll kill this person. I think that was the thing for me that it got a bit boring. The actual details of the narrative was a bit dull, and I was a bit bored by it. I like the overall premise of having this writer who gets mistaken for being
It's a good premise for a film.
Yeah, I
It's a good
like
premise.
that. And I liked the characters enough, but the actual details of it all happening, I was a bit bored by.
Yeah. So I guess talking about that, like the premise of him being a writer. So like they did a really good job of making him like an everyday sort of person, like an everyday man.
Yeah.
And sort of that challenge of overcoming the ordinary, or like being ordinary, and the physical
I know
inabilities,
exactly.
and the mental odds of like overcoming what's in your mind about who you are as a person as well. So how do we think that was done well? Like, was that it's tricky. It's really tricky.
I think they set him up to be like, on the surface he was a loner and he was an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
But as soon as he got put into Venezuela and realised that he had to try and go through with assassinating someone, they were like, who was it? Andy Garcia's character, El Toro, was like, okay, what do you need? And he's like, all of a sudden, well, hang on, I know all this stuff. So he's like, I need this, we need to do this, and this. And straight away you're like, well, I'm not surprised that he's good at that kind of stuff, because they've set him up as someone who knows that kind of stuff. So it was almost just believing in himself that he could do it. Which, I thought they did that okay.
I thought it was done well.
That could have
like
been a
that.
cop-out.
It could have, yeah.
So there's a little bit in it as well. It's like being bettering yourself by putting other people first. And like, I think that was sort of done through Rosa a little bit, where, she had this challenge of like, I don't know, do you reckon she actually lost those 5 partners?
No.
Because I reckon she did.
Yeah, I was going to say, I must admit, I never thought that she didn't.
Maybe a couple, but I just seemed 5 just seemed a bit much.
Yeah, and probably that add to the comedic element of what they're trying to go for. But I reckon like she actually had lost partners.
She's full invested in this, right?
Yeah. And she was at this stage where she was like a lone wolf, and she kept saying, I'm by myself, I've got no support, this is my last safe house, I've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And so I was like, she's been working by herself, looking out for herself, but then she turns a little bit and looks out for Sam. So I thought that was cool.
She looks out for good, really. She's like classic vigilante.
Yeah.
As soon as she saw... Do you think she saw Sam as like, this is an opportunity for me to progress my game? Or do you think she saw Sam as, I got to save this guy, he's in too deep?
Well, didn't at the start she wanted to save him?
Yeah.
And then...
That's the vibe I get. She
Yeah.
just wanted to save him and then saw opportunity.
And then kind of as it went on, it was kind of like, actually, this guy can help me do some good.
I did
So
like
it
it when she
changed.
said, how did you meet with the president's advisor or whatever? He goes, like, I have all my meetings here. I
Get
get
kidnapped.
kidnapped.
And then
was
like
good.
it turned as well, because like Sam was at the airport ready to get on a plane, and then he turned. It's like, okay, the whole movie I've been trying to get to the embassy, I've been trying to get out of here, but now I'm going to go back
and save her.
Save her.
Yeah.
So that goes back, putting others first.
Let's light this candle.
Oh man, please.
I wish I had written down more. I didn't write
You
it
love
down.
the Corny Wife.
I loved it. That was so funny. And he kept trying to figure out what the best line would be.
Oh, the line to end his script, that was great.
So in that interview I was talking about before, the director said, or the writer said, I wanted to have this cynical look at geopolitics. So every politician or every government official we saw in it was pretty inadequate.
Like a joke. And you know what? That's probably another negative, that it was too far the other way.
Like having an American as the president of another country
Ridiculous.
was like didn't really need that.
It wasn't relevant either. Like
No.
it wasn't. I guess that probably showed why the CIA was kind of not covering for them, but they were kind of in on everything.
The CIA were useless, and then obviously the DEA are useless too, because they've cut off support to this chick and just said, you just run with your own thing. And then,
Well, I don't think she was like, not even cut off support. I think they were just like, we're not doing this. You don't work for us anymore, effectively.
Yeah.
Even obviously the cops overseas weren't great.
No.
They're all corrupt.
We don't want to gloss over that because we think it happens in places. So like, that was still a bad reflection.
Yeah.
I've done my trip to South America, so say what you want. There were these really corny lines throughout, like...
Yeah, but MJ loved them.
I know. Okay, so I'm going to hit you up.
Only when Kevin James read them.
All right, so this is a audio thumbs up or thumbs down to these lines.
All right.
And they all fit in the same sort of theme.
This is
So
good.
one of the lines was, you don't want the best things in life to happen to your alter ego. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
No, it wasn't great.
Not great. All right, good. Thumbs down.
Not a great
Next
line.
one.
But you know, it's a nice message.
It's a good message.
Okay.
Like it's true, but
It's
the
kind of the
line
message of the
wasn't
film.
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next one. You're only right for escape.
No, it's a terrible one.
Exactly right. 2. Next one. Stop living other people's lives and start living your own.
Well, that's similar to the first one.
I like
very
that
similar,
one
yeah.
a bit more. I like that one.
But that's, yeah.
But it's worded better.
Yeah, you could have that in like a really serious dramatic film, and that could be a really strong line if done correctly. Like, it's not bad.
Okay, and last one. You're a man of action, not words.
These are all the same.
Oh, that's why I said they're all in the same thing.
Ah.
This is all dialogue from the same thing that they're trying to pump down your throat.
Oh, well, at least they were creative about
Yeah,
how they
different
wanted
lines.
to say it.
Oh, man.
What do you
They
think
stuck
the
to
movie
the
was
same
about?
theme.
They were trying to have a crack at the online publishing world a little bit too, I think.
They were taking the piss.
Yeah.
Absolute. So, she's like, I work in the cloud. Twilight. Was Twilight still relevant in 2016?
Was Twilight? I didn't realize. Was Twilight like an ebook?
Yeah,
before
well, it
anything
started
else?
off as an online story,
I
didn't it?
had no
I
idea.
didn't know that. I figured that would be true because it
Someone
would be a
picked it
weird
up
thing
and
to
said
lie
we're going to
about.
publish it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that.
And interestingly, Twilight
It just
was a
felt-
$40 million film.
And it just felt dated, like, straight away.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it
we're
did.
making
You're right.
jokes
It
to
did.
Twilight.
It
Like,
did.
yeah.
Maybe is Twilight the only big film that big book that was ever on
It started as an ebook.
50 Shades of Grey.
Really?
I feel like, maybe,
Actually,
I'm pretty sure 50 Shades of Grey was an online.
Not that I've
Someone
read
picked
it.
up.
I imagine it's just a shocking read that many publishers would be like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Hashtag Jamie Dornan. If there's any fans out there of Jamie Dornan, hit us up. We love Jamie on this podcast.
Jamie Dornan fans have strong social presence.
They do. And thank you for your feedback on our
Thank you,
episode on
and he
Siege
was
of Jacksonville.
excellent in Siege of Jacksonville.
Are there any other themes or motives that we can think of that are in that film?
Well, apart from that one, which we said in 4 different ways, yeah, it's all about, when you look at Rose's story, it's that whole like standing up for what you believe in, as opposed to just quitting and going with the flow.
I think she wanted to make a difference, and I felt Juan did as well.
Well, he,
Like-
he explicitly said it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted to see the country do well. They wanted to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So standing up for your beliefs when no one's got your back, but still going through with it.
Yeah, and then even Sam, by the end of it, that's exactly what he did. He had the safe way out and went back.
Yeah.
And it's also like there's this perception versus reality. How does people see you from the outside in, and then how do you actually put yourself out there? I think all of the characters sort of showed that a little bit.
Especially if you're a writer and you're living in your books as opposed to living in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's another way they could have said it.
All right, so what do we take away from the film? What did we like? What didn't we like overall?
I thought it's a good Netflix movie. It's a good movie just to sit down and relax and watch as a good Netflix movie on
I
the
have
couch.
that written in my notes. I've gone, perfect film for Netflix.
Yeah. I thought it was a really good Netflix
There
movie.
wasn't things that I loved about it. There wasn't things that I hated about it. It was just a film, and I enjoyed watching it without wanting to rush to watch it again or even recommend it. Really, not that I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't be the first thing I'd recommend to someone. But yeah, I enjoyed watching it enough.
Yeah, like it was nothing too serious. Bit of light fun, but at the same time, like the jokes to me, like I usually rate my comedies based on how many times I laugh.
Yeah. And did you laugh?
No.
Again, this wasn't like, I don't think I particularly laughed out loud except for some of those great lines. This again, similar to like The Do-Over, it's not one of those films that was full of like stop and laugh. We want you to laugh every 5 minutes. There was the action.
That was some
element
good
to it.
funny bits.
It was a
though, in
light
there.
action, really, and
Some of the action scenes were good as well. Like, it's just a good, enjoyable movie, I thought.
It wouldn't be a bad movie to watch with a group of mates. Actually,
Yeah.
you'd have a bit of fun with it, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of beers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
help.
bit of fun. Did anyone IMDb at any stage? I know we spoke earlier a little bit. Yeah.
I jumped on for Sam's boss. When he came on, because I was like, I was pretty sure I knew who he was. Yeah, he I knew him from Wolf of Wall Street. He plays Nicky Koskov, which is one of Leo DiCaprio's mates, just one of his little small group.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he came on. I'm like, oh, I think I know that guy. Yeah, the Wolf of Wall
So
Street.
you saw a guy who was in this film for 2 seconds from a film where he played a bit part in another film. That's a good effort.
Yes,
That's a really good effort.
I love the Wolf of Wall Street.
I did it for Rosa because she just looked familiar, and I haven't seen her in anything, but I just thought maybe there might have been something. I'm like, where have I seen you? And nothing rang a bell, so it was a...
I thought the Rosa thing was like all I could think of was Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I was like, it's Rosa. It's Rosa. I only went on there to confirm what I knew straight in my head. So Masovich,
Yep.
the guy who plays him is called Andrew Howard, and when we did our episode on XOXO, I mentioned one of my favourite Australian films is One Perfect Day.
He did, yeah.
And he plays Hector in that. He plays the bad guy in that. And I was like, straight away, I'm like, for One Perfect Day, and I was like, you're in an Aussie film and you're in this now. And then I looked at, he's actually British anyway, but
I was going to say he's not Australian.
no, he's not Australian, but One Perfect Day, please go see it if you can.
I'll put it on my watch list.
Put it on your watch list. It's a great film. All right, any questions? What have you got to ask us? This is a little bit tricky to talk about, I think, or ask questions about it.
Yeah, there was nothing that left me stumped.
Yeah, I didn't really have any. I'm sure you got a couple, Jesse?
Yeah, so I felt like that they tried to dump in a couple of like little women's feminist movement sort of things that sort of, I was like, if you're going to try and play with that, you need to be consistent the whole way through. So there was one part where Rosa went and got a couple of beers for Sam and came back, and he opens them and she goes, I could have done that by myself. I'm like, okay, cool. So maybe we're going to see her as a character. And then later on, when she's fighting Masvich at the end, he goes, I'm going to kill a woman. And she goes, oh, that's good to know that you give equal opportunity to men and women as well. I was like, cool. This would have been cool if it ran the whole way through, but it was just like these two little stark things that
There was also a joke then later where Rosa did something for Sam, and Sam goes the line back, he's like, oh, I could have done that by myself.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, you talk about, because she was such a strong female character, but at the end, Sam had to save her.
Yeah.
Like, despite all the fact that she got them everywhere, where they could have, like, they were nowhere without her.
Could have done so much.
But still at the end, he's like, I've got you.
Bit of mixed messaging, which
was good for his development. So it's not, I'm not trying to say that, they were trying to point in the other direction, but yeah, you're right. She was a great character though.
So I had, were the filmmakers too rough on Venezuela? And I think we sort of already touched that anyway. They were probably a little poor. At the end, Juan was the president. Why? Tell me why. Like, why is he a president?
I agree.
Well, someone had to be.
That's what it was. Someone had to be, and he was like, "Oh, this guy's okay."
But do they need to show that? Like, was that to show that the CIA guys hadn't changed as well, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to be hard now to corrupt anyone because this guy's not going to take corruption."
I think they had to show that everything they did was for something. So it didn't just go back to the crap it was before.
Yeah.
That it might actually change, and so overall the whole story they've done something for the good.
Okay.
I reckon like a minute before that happened, I was thinking, I bet Juan will be president. And then in my head, I'm like, no, it doesn't quite add up. He's just like this, soldier. And then it's like, no, he's president.
So picking on characters, the last thing I want to ask, please tell. I want to know. Sorry, this is a question. This is me begging at the start in the bar. The guy telling the story to Sam. Please tell me you knew that he was the ghost from the start.
I thought it. I thought it.
Oh, there's the biggest setup in the world. I'm like,
I want to say yes. But no, I wasn't actively thinking about it.
The whole time, like, okay, this
It crossed my mind a little bit, and I think it was more because I think they made a point to say he was only like a desk agent.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like, he's not going to be a desk agent. I didn't maybe think he was the ghost, but I thought, he was definitely in the field.
I was thinking the whole time, obviously, the ghost is going to turn up at some point.
Right? Yeah, so it was like, who do you think was going to be the ghost then? Yeah.
That's bad on me, but hey, this is one of those films I said you can switch your brain off and enjoy it, and I think if I didn't switch my brain off, I would
have to think too much into it. You don't have to think too much into it.
Because as soon as he was there with the gun, I was like, oh, that's a nice touch. He's the ghost. Like, great work. But yeah, of course, it's clear as day.
All right. Anything else you want to ask?
No, I feel like an idiot now.
No, you don't. That wasn't my point. I'm sorry.
Jesse thinks he's so smart.
Not at all. That's not what I was.
Maybe I think at a subconscious level, I thought he was. That's why it made so much sense for him to come back as the ghost.
All right. Let's do this. Let's give a rating. Let's go around the table. We rate our films out of 5. Heater, kick us off. What did you think?
The movie wasn't too bad. It gave me a few laughs. A bit corny at times, but overall. It was pretty enjoyable. I liked all of the cast of actors and the characters. I thought it was a lot better than Adam Sandler's first 2 efforts, which is, I think, a good comparison to compare him to. I'd give this movie 2.5 out of 5.
Good. Andrew?
Cool. It was pretty fun. The details within the story were pretty boring, but the overall premise worked well enough. Kevin James is just somebody I really like watching on screen, and this is no different in True Memoirs. Probably not something I'd go out of my way to recommend, but easy enough to watch. 2.5 stars.
Cool. I thought it was pretty predictable. I thought Kevin James played the role well. Like, he did a good job and tried to say something, even though maybe the messages weren't great. So I'm going to give it a 2. So I put that sort of in between between my two Adam Sandler films.
It's funny Kevin James coming out and saying like it's such a different role for him. I think obviously because of the action side of things.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is like the most Kevin James kind of character. He's this writer who gets mistaken for something and he's just all like, oh, what do I do? Like, that's so Kevin James.
Individual scores, we always add up and give an average for our team. Heater, fill us in. What have we got out of 5?
2.33.
2.33
out of 5.
So, not too bad.
Yeah.
As usual, social media. Love our social media.
Soch.
We put a question up each week about our film. As usual, my co-hosts don't know the question, so this is a good one. So, if you could create an alter ego for yourself, who would you be? So
that's a fun one.
It's a fun one. It's a good one because obviously in this film,
like he's an assassin.
He's an assassin.
Oh, okay.
So if you in your life could be someone else and live that life vacaciously, is that the right word? I don't know. If you could live that life, who would you be?
That's a really good one. I like that a lot. Hey, actually, on this, if you're listening to this podcast and it's weeks and weeks after we actually first released it, you can nick back onto our social channels and see where we post the questions. And you can post your response there. So don't feel like if you miss out on seeing the question in social this week, it does live there somewhere in the cloud.
That sounds like something from this film.
Go back and find the question for this week. Because thing with podcasts, you can listen to this whenever. You don't need to listen to it as soon as we release it. Yeah. So
exactly. So and like MJ says, we are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at FlixForum. Subscribe to our podcast. Give us 5 stars. Recommend us to your mates, whatever you need to do.
Have you got an answer to your question?
I didn't actually think. I just thought of the question. I didn't come up with something myself. I probably wouldn't.
I thought you might have some ideas.
I wouldn't be an assassin.
No way. That's super dangerous.
I might be a writer.
Who writes about assassins?
That would be my alter ego. Either of you got anything?
No,
I have to think about it.
It'd have to be sport though.
Sport. Yeah. Superstar sports player. Yeah. World's greatest Pokemon catcher. We could.
Oh yeah.
All right. So
I reckon it'd be cool to be a spy.
A spy.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I watch a lot of spy movies. It'd be cool to be a spy.
All right. So next week we're going to be looking at the 2016 thriller film. It's called Mercy. It's directed by Chris Sparling. Stars James Wolk, Caitlin Fitzgerald, Tom Lipsinski, Dan Ziski, Michael Godry, and Michael Donovan. So. Get on board, watch the film before next week so you can join in and listen and laugh to our hilarious take on...
Laugh? Is this going to be a funny one, Mercy?
Well, we usually have a laugh.
We do enjoy each other's company now.
So I hope we're going to
find a laugh in any kind of film.
I'm going to apologise. I didn't recognise any of those names for Mercy. Probably says more about me, but...
me either. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. As usual, we've had fun, so thank you for coming along and chatting movies.
Thanks, boys.
It's been great.
Good fun.
And we will see you all next week.
Bye.